She once smiled with joy, surrounded by floating blue confetti. Her hand rested gently on her belly, eyes sparkling as if she could already see the future unfolding. A baby boy, a new chapter, a complete family she truly believed she was building. But just 48 hours later, inside the very home where she had hung photos of their happiness, the man who once held her, who once whispered, "Mother of my child," pulled the trigger and shot her without hesitation. The death of Bolivia Monique Williams is not just a tragedy. It is a heartbreaking wake-up call about emotional abuse, control, and the deadly power of silence. We extend our deepest condolences to Bolivia's family, and today we walk through this story together, not to reopen wounds, but to ensure it never happens again. Welcome to Crimson Files, where we uncover true crime stories you probably haven't heard before. And we'd truly appreciate it if you enjoy our content and choose to support it. One small action: hit that like button and subscribe to our channel so we can notify you as soon as new videos drop. Now, let's dive into today's story. Bolivia Monique Williams was born and raised in the small, quiet town of Whiteville, nestled in Bladen County, North Carolina. It was a place of red dirt roads, aging wooden houses shaded by ancient oaks, and where nearly everyone knew each other's names. The community felt Bolivia was raised by her mother, Miss Peggy Blanks, a strong, no-nonsense woman with a deeply compassionate heart. With no father figure present during her upbringing, Bolivia learned independence early. While other kids were still in bed, she was up helping her mother prepare breakfast, folding laundry and tidying the house. She was raised with discipline and grew up surrounded by love, not the showy kind, but the sturdy, unwavering kind that builds a life. Growing up through adversity, Bolivia understood, deeply and instinctively, the value of care, perseverance, and sacrifice. By age 33, she was the mother of 5 children, from toddlers to teens. Her world revolved around school drop-offs and pickups, lunchboxes, homework sessions, and the precious fleeting moments like shared laughter in the kitchen or a warm hug at the end of a long day. She didn't just raise her children, she passed down to them core values: kindness, gratitude, and personal responsibility. Even with limited income, Bolivia managed to ensure her children never felt lacking. She threw backyard birthday parties, turned the living room into a weekend dance floor, and did everything she could to create the kind of childhood memories her kids would carry forever. Her friends called her the tireless mother, not because she didn't get tired, but because she never complained. Every morning at 5:30 a.m., she rose to cook, pack lunches, and get her kids ready for school. The rest of her day was a symphony of responsibilities: paying bills, booking doctor's appointments, fixing the car, doing laundry, all organized through a calendar stuck on the fridge, color-coded and full of handwritten notes. Every square a glimpse into a life that never stopped moving. Despite her busy schedule, Bolivia maintained a close bond with her mother. Miss Peggy came over 3 times a week to help with meals and childcare. They were a team, raising the next generation together. Their relationship was more than mother and daughter. It was a deep-rooted partnership built on mutual respect and unwavering trust. Bolivia was the kind of woman you only had to meet once to remember forever. Not for flashy charisma, but for the gentle, genuine energy she radiated. A woman who wrapped her entire world in her arms. Never needing applause, just wanting her children to be fed, safe, and loved. To those who knew her, she wasn't a victim. She was a symbol of motherhood, of grace under pressure, of quiet strength, someone who stood firm against life's challenges and built a home with her whole heart. Naji Devon Leach stepped into Bolivia Monique Williams' life on a quiet afternoon in early 2023, when the last breath of winter still lingered in the streets of Whiteville. They met through a mutual acquaintance at a local community gathering. He wasn't striking in appearance, nor did he have an admirable career, but Naji possessed something that often disarmed even the strongest women: a warm smile, an easy demeanor, and a slow, deliberate voice that made whoever he spoke to feel heard. For Bolivia, a single mother juggling 5 kids, bills, dinners, and dreams that hadn't yet found names, that gentleness felt like rare oxygen. She wasn't easily swayed, but when Naji said he admired the way she raised her children, that he saw in her the light of a strong woman, Bolivia felt seen, not just as a mother buried under responsibilities, but as a whole woman, worthy of love. Their connection grew quickly. Within a few months, Naji had slowly merged into Bolivia's world. From late-night conversations to school pickups, grocery runs, and fixing the leaky faucet in her kitchen. No formal promises were made, but the signs of almost living together were unmistakable. His hoodie in her closet, his toothbrush by her sink, a coffee mug labeled with his name on her kitchen shelf. Online, they looked like a happy couple. Bolivia wasn't one to overshare, but when she posted, it was joy in snapshots. Naji carrying one of her children on his shoulders, the family eating dinner together, or the gender reveal video. Naji standing beside Bolivia, blue confetti bursting in the air, her smile radiant, as if heartbreak had never touched her life. Friends and family were supportive at first. Naji came off as kind, helpful, and genuinely interested. He pitched in financially, helped with the kids, and was present at birthday dinners and small backyard parties. To many, he seemed like a rare kind of man, one who could love not just a woman, but also the children she brought with her. But what no one seemed to notice was that Naji never really shared anything about himself. His past was vague, his job unclear, and he never talked about long-term plans. Most of their conversations revolved around immediate needs, expenses, childcare, everyday logistics, dreams, values, emotional connection. They all seemed to flow from one direction. Bolivia spoke. Naji listened, sometimes so silently that it felt like care, when in truth it was absence. Some of Bolivia's closest friends began sensing something was off. She rarely showed up at gatherings, often cancelling last minute with reasons like, "Naji can't come," or "he needs me at home today." But Bolivia, the woman who always put others before herself, never complained. She believed love required sacrifice, and sometimes she chose silence to keep the peace. In that small house once filled with laughter, love slowly began to morph into a shadow, elusive and hard to name. Bolivia still called it love. But was the man beside her truly building a life with her? Or was he merely occupying it temporarily, waiting for the right moment to take full control? On May 19, 2024, in the backyard of Bolivia's modest home in Regalwood, North Carolina, blue confetti fluttered through the air. Cheers erupted, children laughed with joy, and Bolivia, she glowed like a star streaking across the summer sky. It was a gender reveal party, a simple yet deeply meaningful tradition for families awaiting the arrival of their little angel. Bolivia wore a soft blue floral dress, one hand resting gently on her round belly. Her smile spoke not only of excitement, but of rare serenity, as if in that fleeting moment, every burden melted away. She had already chosen a name for her baby, Isaiah James, a name imbued with hope and faith. Family members wrapped their arms around her, close friends lined up to offer congratulations. In the photos shared on social media, happiness shimmered like golden light at dusk, illuminating every face. For many, it was the most beautiful moment of Bolivia's life, a symbol that she was entering a new chapter filled with love and promise. But while the world around Bolivia sparkled, a quiet shadow stood just outside the glow. Najin, believed to be the baby's father, a man who once claimed to admire Bolivia's strength as a mother, appeared almost swallowed by his own silence. In every frame, he stood slightly to the side, never embracing Bolivia, never smiling, never sharing in her radiant joy. No one said anything at the time. Perhaps they thought he was simply shy or still adjusting to fatherhood. But in his distant gaze, in the subtle gap between movements, something faintly quivered, like a guitar string pulled too tight. To Bolivia, that day was one of the happiest of her life. But she didn't know that just 48 hours later, the very man who stood still at that celebration would bring it all to an end. The love, the dream of motherhood, and the life of the child she had carried with all her heart. A photo can capture a smile, but it cannot preserve a life. 2 days after the gender reveal party, where bits of blue confetti still lingered on the grass and laughter seemed to echo faintly in memory, came the evening of Tuesday, June 4th, 2024. Bolivia began her afternoon like any other, picking up her children from school, preparing dinner, chatting on the phone with her mother, Peggy. She mentioned that lately, Laji had been irritable. He was becoming more distant, but Bolivia tried her best to maintain balance in the home. She didn't want the children to feel the cracks, especially not after such a hopeful celebration. Around 7 p.m., Naji arrived. Neighbors reported seeing him dressed all in black, driving his usual sedan, parking outside Bolivia's home. He brought no gifts, no smile. But Bolivia still opened the door. She thought, we're adults, we can talk. Inside the house, 3 of Bolivia's 5 children were present, watching TV in the bedroom. A witness later recalled that, around 8:20 p.m., they heard arguing. Not loud yelling, but words spoken low and sharp, like every syllable had weight. A 12-year-old child in the home would later testify that their mother had said, "You have to understand, I won't let myself and my kids be controlled like this forever. We can't keep doing this." That declaration, for most men, would signal the end of a relationship. But to Naji Devont Leach, it was the ultimate insult. 8:32 p.m. Multiple gunshots rang out. Neighbors startled, the children inside screamed. By the time police arrived at 8:41 p.m., Bolivia lay motionless in the living room. Blood soaking the carpet, trickling down fingers that still wore a ring. Spent 9mm shell casings scattered across the floor, indicating it all happened quickly. 2 of her children were holding her tightly, trying to stop the bleeding, following instructions from a 911 dispatcher. Bolivia's purse was emptied onto the kitchen counter. Cash remained inside, but her car keys were gone. Naji had fled, driving Bolivia's gold Subaru, taking her phone, her ID, and perhaps the intent to vanish. He disappeared into the night as if he'd never existed in her life. No apology, no sign of remorse, only a broken family behind him, and a home filled with sobs. 9:38 p.m. The hospital officially pronounced Bolivia and her unborn baby boy Isaiah James, dead. A life never opened its eyes. A mother never got to hold her child. And a family, already weathered by struggle, now faced the unthinkable. Learning to survive without the woman who held everything together. No one knows exactly what went through Naji's mind as he pulled the trigger that night, but one truth is undeniable. If there was love, it had been twisted, warped into a grotesque form of possession, where a woman could not walk away without paying the price. 48 hours. Just 48 hours from the moment Bolivia spread her arms wide to receive congratulations to the moment her body went cold on the floor of her home. The question still lingers. How can someone kill the person they once claimed to love, simply because they couldn't accept being left? And perhaps the most heartbreaking part of all, Bolivia had trusted him completely. Right after pulling the trigger, taking the lives of Bolivia Monique Williams and their unborn child, Naji Devon Leach, didn't flee in panic. He quietly, coldly stepped back into the house. He didn't cry out. He didn't scream. He didn't show remorse. Everything unfolded like a part of a plan, calculated, deliberate, and marked the beginning of a hopeless escape. Just minutes after the shooting, traffic cameras captured Bolivia's gold Subaru Forester, the vehicle Naji had stolen, speeding out of Regalwood, blowing through red lights. He didn't use his own car. He had planned this. At 9:17 p.m., he stopped at a gas station in Columbus County. He purchased a burner phone, a few energy drinks, and a baseball cap. He paid entirely in cash, leaving no digital trace. The clerk later said, he was calm, but kept glancing out the window, like he expected someone to be following him. By 10:30 p.m., GPS data showed his phone more than 45 miles away from the crime scene, heading away from his known residence. But instead of fleeing the state in desperation, Naji made a strange move. He circled back toward Wilmington, North Carolina, almost as if he'd pre-selected that destination in advance. There he began to change his appearance. At a 24-hour discount store, surveillance footage captured him buying scissors, clippers, and a new set of clothes. Inside the store's restroom, he cut off his signature braided hair that had been part of his identity for years. He disposed of the strands in separate trash bins, hoping to leave no trace. Within just a few hours of committing murder, a completely different man emerged. No braids, no bright-colored clothes, no signature jewelry. Everything replaced with a neutral, nondescript look, meant to blend in and disappear. At 1:17 a.m. on June 5th, Leji posted a single cryptic status on Facebook. I posed to love you, but you killed me. A vague, manipulative line, casting himself as the victim, as if Bolivia had betrayed him, as if the murder was something to be understood. But to investigators, it was something else. A veiled confession, and the first digital breadcrumb of a killer who thought he could rewrite the narrative. Throughout June 5th, Naji kept moving. He used the burner phone to make a few calls, reaching out to an old acquaintance, asking for shelter. He stopped at an ATM, a grocery store, and eventually made his way to a motel in Wilmington, where he checked in under a false name. He thought he was safe, that he had gotten away, but his trail was already unraveling. GPS data, traffic footage, cash receipts, witness reports, and even the burner phone he'd thought he'd thrown away. It all left enough evidence for law enforcement to zero in At 3:15 p.m. on June 5th, police stormed the motel. Naji was arrested just as he returned to his room. No resistance, not a word. He knew it was over. And perhaps it had never really begun. Inside the gold SUV he had stolen from his victim, police found a loaded 9mm handgun, later confirmed to be the murder weapon. Naji offered no resistance, and even less remorse. He was silent. Not the silence of regret, but the chilling stillness of a man fully aware of his crime, carefully calculating his final move. But the law had already moved ahead of him. A swift series of charges followed. First-degree murder, murder of an unborn child, armed robbery, illegal possession of a firearm, breaking and entering of an occupied dwelling, organized vehicle theft, and notably evidence tampering, including deleting messages, discarding phones, altering his appearance, and using a false identity while fleeing. The combined penalties for these charges, if pursued separately, could keep him behind bars for the rest of his life. But prosecutors weren't stopping there. The Bladen County District Attorney's Office officially confirmed they were considering pursuing the death penalty, because this was not just a crime. It was a calculated, intentional, and chillingly brutal act. 3 aggravating factors were identified. 1. He murdered the victim while committing other felonies, armed robbery and vehicle theft. 2. The victim was pregnant. An unborn life was also taken. 3. The crime displayed exceptional cruelty, committed in the presence of her children, followed by flight and deliberate destruction of evidence. In court, Declan Naji remained stone-faced. No apology, no sign of remorse. Across the aisle, Bolivia's mother, Ms. Peggy Blanks, wept in silence. Then she stood, looked directly at the defendant, and said, "You may stay silent in this courtroom, but justice will not. My daughter did not die for nothing." The next court session is scheduled for later this month, but the outrage in the community has never subsided. The people of Regalwood hold candlelight vigils. Thousands have shared Bolivia's story. And step by step, the justice system is tracing every fragment of this crime to deliver the one ending that truly fits the man who dared to steal 2 innocent lives. After the gunshots echoed that night, the 5 children of Bolivia Monique Williams stepped into a world without a mother. The oldest was just 16. The youngest hadn't even learned how to say "mummy." These children had once grown up wrapped in love. Dinners around the table, laughter in the living room, and memory books Bolivia had carefully written, line by line, marking each precious milestone of their childhoods. And now, those memories are all they have left. Their grandmother, Peggy Blanks, once Bolivia's best friend, has now become the backbone of an entire household. In an aging 2-bedroom home, she starts again from scratch, raising 5 grieving children alone, bearing the heartbreak of losing a daughter and a grandchild while drowning under piles of medical and funeral debt. But in that darkness, a light began to rise from the community. The people of Whiteville did not look away. Local organizations raised over $47,000, creating the Bolivia Monique Williams Scholarship Fund to support her children and other students affected by domestic violence. 3 churches partnered to deliver hot meals every evening. Local businesses hosted fundraisers. Strangers mailed warm coats, school supplies, and handwritten letters to comfort the children. But perhaps greater than all of that is the ripple of awareness now spreading across the region. Community forums, town hall events, and viral social media campaigns using hashtags like For Bolivar and Say Her Name began appearing everywhere, emphasizing red flags in relationships that on the surface may seem normal. Local committees approved new budgets for victim support centers, and schools began integrating education about healthy relationships into their curriculums. Bolivia's death awakened an entire town. No one wanted to see another woman fall silently into the same tragedy she endured. And now, in the shadow of this loss, a community is rising, not just to remember, but to act. The deaths of Bolivia Monique Williams and her unborn son Isaiah did not simply mark the end of a life. They opened a haunting question for all of us. How many more smiles will be silenced behind closed doors? How many more people will remain in the shadows calling it love? Via was a strong, hopeful mother. But even someone like her, resilient, intelligent, full of love, was not spared a heartbreaking fate. When the person she trusted most became the one who took her life and the life of her child. And the most terrifying part is, it happened too fast, too quietly, too late to turn back. We cannot change the past, but we can shape the future, through awareness, through action, and through voice. If you are in a relationship that makes you feel afraid, that makes you feel smaller and smaller, listen to that feeling. If someone around you begins to withdraw, disconnect, or change in unnatural ways, ask, care, do not stay silent. Call a domestic violence hotline. Share your story, or be willing to hear someone else's. Don't believe that silence is safety, because silence can sometimes be the slowest form of death. If you believe this story deserves to be remembered, please take action. Subscribe, because every new subscriber is another voice for those still too afraid to speak. Like and share, because you don't know who out there might need to hear this right now. And remember this, real love does not control, it does not harm, and it never steals someone's future.